after his latest fiasco, police are charging self-declared Elcor performance artist Nokrik Tor with breaking and entering, computer intrusion, inciting a riot, destruction of property, and resisting arrest. Tor broke into the Reanimond Auditorium on the Citadel during a showing of the popular new musical Hearts on Breaking Shore. Halfway through the program, Tor used a jamming signal to short out every translator in the theater, then triggered a fire alarm. "It was a nightmare," says one theatergoer. "It was dark, people were suddenly shrieking gibberish, and no one knew what was happening. One poor Solarian got his arm broken just because he was standing between the crowd and an exit." Tor expressed no remorse over the 44 people injured in the panic, only saying as he was led to jail,
"Smug satisfaction. It was an admirable success in forcing people to face their overdependency on technology for modern convenience."
Simulstim director Hoyt Marazzo is being accused of using unscripted real-life trauma in his controversial mockumentary Holly's Last Chance. Marazzo instructed actor Corden Ring to put on his recording rig before coming to the set, which was deserted when Ring arrived. "That 3 or 4 thugs jumped out," Ring said. "One cracked my leg with a baton, then kicked me to the ground. They beat me for at least 2 minutes and 34 seconds, because that's how long Marazzo's footage lasts." Marazzo denied all charges of a setup, insisting that Ring was fully aware and consenting during the scene. "I'd never destroy the bond of trust between a simulsim director and his actor for a cheap shock," said Marazzo. "If Ring's doing this to get out of more filming, there are smarter ways to get out of a contract." Youth United is a galaxy-wide extranet group that aims to connect young people of all species. Founder Darchus Clark says he wants to provide a helpful, positive environment for children to learn about each other's cultures. A Batarian raised in a human family, Clark says he knows things can be difficult for young people of mixed backgrounds.
"My parents were good people, but they didn't know how to help with my struggle to relate to either Batarian or human cultures when I was a kid,"
he recalls.
"It's important that Youth United lets kids know they're not alone in that struggle. There's still too many vicious and ignorant attitudes towards mixed families out there."
The group's services include chat sessions with peers and counselors, free classes on alien languages and cultures, and a guide to the galaxy's major legal systems. Rare Solarian artifacts will be returned to Manuvai after a month-long visit to the colony by Professor Balia Hafia.
"The families of the Solarians I met changed my mind on where these artifacts should ultimately rest,"
says the professor, who had staunchly defended keeping the items in the museum of the University of Ceres.
"Sometimes it is easy to forget that a curator's job is not only to preserve the past, but also to inspire the next generation with its own history."
Credited with facilitating the agreement reached between the University of Ceres and Manuvai, Professor Hafia has been asked to accompany the honor guard escorting the artifacts back home. The last shovel of soil has been laid over the time capsule buried underneath the cairn. An ambitious sculpture its project lead hopes will be her longest-lasting monument.
Most of the capsules are lost or abandoned,
says Andrea Schumacher, the cairn's lead architect.
The cairn has been inscribed with pictograms developed by anthropologists and semioticians. These graphics are designed to show any species that there's something buried below. What any given race makes of the capsule is for history to decide.
The cairn is a simple 300-meter block covered with a thick coat of weather-resistant, non-destructible polymer. Over 20 museums have contributed materials for the capsule, including instructions on how to build Starship drive cores and a map of the galaxy's mass relays. A team of reporters from Second Star Broadcasting has made a discovery that they claim puts the war on Garvug in an entirely new light. Working undercover for several months at Guanghui Solutions, the journalists uncovered evidence that the company, along with Sonax Industries, was concealing a cache of Prothean technology on Garvug for their own private financial gain. The reporters' painstaking documentation has garnered the attention of the Citadel Council's Committee on Paleotechnology, which demanded that the corporations allow their inspection team full access to the Garvug site in question, or face reprisals to their offices in Citadel space. The investigation promises to delay Guanghui's release of a high-performance Mass Effect field generator, scheduled to be on the market in just a few months. Biologists on the arid world of Ekram were shocked when an insectoid colony shoved them back from its nest with a biotic field.
At first I thought it was our meteorologist, Darren, goofing around with his L1 implant,
says Dr. Andi Nide, who leads the team studying a beetle-like invertebrate called a Kirik. While most animals can theoretically develop biotics if exposed to element zero at the earliest stage of their life cycle, insects and similar arthropod-like species on other planets were previously thought to lack the complex neural pathways needed to develop control over biotic powers.
We're getting calls from all sorts of specialists,
says Dr. Nide.
Studying the Kirik will be a treat if we can actually get near the little critters again.
The insect-like Kirik on Ekram are not only powerfully biotic, they could also be far more intelligent than Earth insects. Once the insect colony figured out the scientists studying it weren't predators, the Kirik began sending out unified biotic pulses in different strengths and patterns.
When a biotic repeated these patterns back,
says linguist Martha Kospiel,
the Kirik's broadcast patterns changed. If this is indicative of systematic learning, it could be the beginning of real communication between us. It also indicates total brain volume is not as important as we once thought. We're hoping they might be as clever as cats or even dogs.
Dr. Andi Nide released this controversial press statement earlier today about his work with a biotic and possibly intelligent Kirik on Ekram.
At first, our communication with the colony was basic. Me, you, food, not food. But the more biotics talk to them, the faster they learn. We suspect their complex social structure puts their learning ability on par with that of dolphins. Uplift has become a dirty word, but the Keurig are perfect candidates.
Seconds after his speech, the extranet exploded in a furious debate over Dr. Nide's proposal. The Citadel Council has sent several ships to monitor traffic to and from Akram, as it decides whether or not to permit the research team to remain on the planet. Whether or not to uplift the biotic Keurig colony of Akram continues to be a popular and often contentious point of debate.
It's ridiculous to compare this to Tachanka,
writes political blogger Erlan Golta.
The Krogan already had the capacity to use the weapons and starships we rained down on them. These insects don't even know how to work a coffee maker.
Sidel Fay, author and think tank consultant, says it's already too late to worry about that.
Whether it's genetic research conglomerates or curious biotic tourists, we're not going to leave these Akramite bugs alone.
She writes,
At least bringing the colony fully into the fold of sentience will grant them rights and protections no dolphin or Vayak ever had.
The researcher studying Akram's biotic insect colony became unexpectedly stranded today.
We told the Keurig we'd have to leave if our swarm queen, that is the Citadel, pulled us off planet,
says head researcher Dr. Andi Nide.
When we started back to base, the colony lifted our ground car right off the road because it wanted to keep talking.
Despite the power of the hive's biotics, Dr. Nide says he never felt in danger, and that the Keurig immediately expressed concern that they damaged the team's feelers.
Their curiosity is incredible,
says Dr. Nide.
Leaving them after first contact would be like abandoning a child.
In response to this incident, the Citadel has sent several representatives to evaluate the Keurig's current level of intelligence and compare it to standard galactic sapience tests. Grab some pillows, snacks, and a comfortable outfit. God Cerberus's 342-hour-long epic, Iota Horology, will be playing at select theaters in Citadel space this weekend. Released a decade ago, the critically acclaimed box office bomb tracks the fortunes of 12 alien families as their empires clash in an unnamed galaxy inside the Horologium supercluster. Viewers who don't want to stay for the entire movie will be relieved to know they can come and go as they please. If the showing proves popular, the distributor is considering screening other lengthy cult classics, such as the surreal 95-hour Molt or the 43-hour adaptation of the Earth classic Gravity's Rainbow. The weekend box office is in, and holiday fare is being passed over like bad fruitcake. The dance flick Offstage opened at number 1, raking in a tidy 2.73 billion credits. Loosely based on the true story of a paraplegic Asari dancer who learns how to move almost entirely through biotics, the movie was a hit with critics who lauded newcomer Shai Iltanis' performance. Holding steady at number 2, Blasto Saves Christmas absconded with 1.9 billion credits from audiences who can't get enough of the Hanar exploitation hero. SharpStickInTheEye.com calls the sequel wince-worthy. Coming in at number 3 was this one's Hanukkah Cheer with 955 million, followed by With Genericized Holiday Spirit at 673 million. Teenage Ninja Kwanzaa Force scraped up 448 million worth of laughs, landing last on the top earner list. Hospitals are once again cautioning people about over-reliance on Medigel. It's a lifesaver, but it can't perform miracles, says registered nurse Ruth Oscar. Emergency rooms are filled with people who think applying Medigel on a fracture instantly heals it. Then they stand on the brake and worsen the injury. Carr advises people to go to a hospital in the event of major trauma, but does recommend keeping your Medigel supply topped up. It's excellent for first aid and preventing infections, he says. Medigel is handy when diseases from across the galaxy are getting dropped off at your local spaceport 3 times a day. The Hirstfield Intercontinental Resort has made swimming a breeze, or at least breezy, with the opening of its microgravity water park on the moon of Voya. The park features a tidal pool with floating 20-foot waves, a miniature mountain of water, and a terrace composed of dozens of hot tubs suspended in midair. This 3-story complex may seem overwhelming, but owner and manager Jacqueline Birchman says the Hartsfield has constantly pushed the bar of extravagance by never thinking small.
Everyone called the engineering and building challenges monumental,
Birchman says.
But we saw the opportunity to make every visit to the Hartsfield a Galaxy-class event. Our suites are booked for up to a year, so our guests obviously agree.
After months of living in squalor at government-mandated safe camps, civilians in the Diluvian wildlands of planet Tatris are finally going home. Lana Ixiri, a banker who left for the camps early, had no idea what to expect.
All anyone knew was that there were bombings and lootings, so I thought I'd be coming back to a gutted house or a pile of rubble,
she says. Lana was one of the lucky ones. Some windows in her prefab house were shot out, but moisture damage to the wood-framed house was limited. Older neighboring houses have rotted and become unsafe. Lana is just one among thousands trying to reconstruct their lives now that the resistance has been quashed.
It's been so long,
she says.
It's hard to remember what normal is.
Once feared by the population, colonialist forces on Tatris now face the daunting task of reconstruction and reuniting family members. The Turian charity Orphans of War estimates that the Tatris conflict now includes casualties of more than 75,000 missing persons and 16,000 children who have lost both parents. The Astatem are supposed to get everyone, says Corporal Vitola Raidun. But at least half of the ones I know won't shoot a kid even if he's looting, so they end up in these holding pens that are practically halfway houses. Raidun says the easiest way to reunite is to get on the extranet. But if the children are too young to use a computer, then relatives must go to the camps and the orphanages in person. That's just a nightmare, Raidun says. If you ever wanted a piece of the galaxy's ditziest socialite, now's your chance. H. Ashland is selling her heart online. It's not the one currently in her chest, but one of 2 spares she had grown from clone tissue at a lab in the Earth town of Pacific Palisades.
Originally, it was there in case something awful happened.
She said.
But after my recent marital difficulties, I've decided that it's time for the world to know that my heart has moved on.
Bidding starts at 50 million credits for the organ, which doctors say is in excellent shape. All proceeds from the sale of the heart will go to Aish's self-founded charity, the Aishwarya Ashland Center for Rehabilitation Medicine. It's a dream come true for 64-year-old multimillionaire Rakesh Dutta, whose daughter Kanta made the winning bid for Aish Ashland's cloned heart last night.
I was a total celebrity addict, and he loves his present.
Kanta raved to firehoseoffame.com minutes after the final bid closed at 115.6 million credits.
He knew I was searching for a donor, but he had no idea he was getting Aish's heart.
Ashland herself said in press release,
I'm so glad I can help someone who's obviously one of those suffering people. I think suffering is a terrible thing, and we should all try to avoid it as part of the Christmas season.
Dutta will be flown from his native Sri Lanka to Los Angeles, where he will undergo surgery to replace his heart with a 24-year-old socialized spare. Dutta's heart was failing after a bout with diabetic cardiomyopathy. It's a dirty job, but someone must do it. Lieutenant Astrey Rubicum of the occupying hierarchy forces on Tathras is responsible for culling the feral animals filling the cities.
It's nearly impossible to take care of pets at a safe camp,
he says.
So people just left them outside when they fled their houses.
Rubicum estimates over 50,000 pets were abandoned in Spider alone, and his animal corps has euthanized at least 10,000, not counting the ferals that don't fit into the trucks and are immediately destroyed.
On the good days it's sad,
he says.
On the bad days it's gut-wrenching.
People are camping out at the cremato station every morning, waiting to see if the animal corps brings in their pets. If no one picks up the animals between intake and processing, they are euthanized. Rubicum hopes that families now returning to their homes will be able to reunite with their pets in time. It was grueling, it was frustrating, and it had us on the edges of our seats. Last night's game between Washington Hackers and the Useru Maestros broke the record for the longest game in Biotiball history. In the 9th overtime period, after a whopping 91 minutes, Citadel Standard, of game time, the Maestros finally put away the winning basket to end it 79-77. Said Maestros forward Tira Tisanis, both sides were exhausted, and that's when you let the fresh girls play defense. It was all we could do to keep that ball afloat. Hackers coach Jerome Manning still thinks his team came out winners. We took it to the Maestros on their home ground and we had them tied, he said proudly. Our players are 20-30 years old up against players who've been in Biotiball since the sport was founded, and we still gave the fans a show to remember. The Hackers go on to play the New Orleans Loa next week, while the Maestros face the Seattle Sorcerers in the semifinals. Citadel Council investigators have announced formal charges against 14 of 24 board members of Sonax Industries and Guanghui Solutions. The move follows an investigation that confirmed those companies withheld Prothean technology from the galactic community for personal gain and instigated an interplanetary war to that end. The investigation credited unnamed specters who secured what they say was irrefutable evidence of the corporation's complicity. Included in those indicated is Sonax Supreme Commander Lyra Spite. High Commissioner of Galactic Rights Irania Asula said,
The acts of these corporations went beyond mere illegality and into crimes against the galactic populace. We invoke the right of the Council to admit evidence garnered by Council representatives to prosecute the parties involved for their misdeeds.
Lyra Spite's office reportedly responded with the following statement.
Try.
The death of a Salarian enforcement agent on planet Garvug is causing a stir among Council watchers and Sonax stockholders alike. Sources close to Sonax Commander Lyra Spite allege that Spectre Lonar Mayron made an attempt on Spite's life and was wounded by her security. Mayron's assistant died, shot after a weapon malfunction left him vulnerable. Sonax officials allowed journalists to view, but not photograph, a charred Salarian body they claim is Urjon Taltz, Mayron's companion. Spite herself did not appear at the press conference, and spokesperson Victor Cohen attempted to assuage reporters, saying the Sonax board was looking into complying with the Citadel Council, but added that,
The law clearly states that we are indeterminate systems, and their act of aggression goes beyond any legal attempt to solve this matter.
Umsung Holdings, Sonax Industries' parent company, has announced sweeping changes to upper management in light of new evidence that has caused significant damage to their brand. The Sonax Industries division will now be known as Core, and each board member currently under council investigation for war crimes will be given a retirement package for services rendered. Said Umsung representative Areum Khan, It is a new day at Umsung, and we are grateful to the Citadel Council for shining the harsh light of truth on the missteps taken by our employees. Admiral Lyra Spite's replacement, Vice Admiral Sanel Mabuza, is expected to take command of the armed forces on and orbiting Garvug in 3 Citadel Standard hours when the sun rises over its capital of the Zil. Today marks the human holiday of Christmas, celebrating the birth of the semi-divine teacher-prophet, Jesus, in Earth's Christian tradition. The holiday is commemorated through omnipresent music in public areas, lavish gift-giving to relatives and loved ones, the cutting and decorating of trees placed indoors, and the hanging of flexible footgear near fire pits. While all of the above practices are secular, more religious humans attend the prayer service either on the night before or during this day. The Holy Spirit is traditionally shared with others by wishing for peace on earth and goodwill towards men. Once considered universal, that greeting has since been replaced by peace and goodwill towards all creation. Former Sonax, now Core, employee Lyra Spite has reportedly fled the planet Garvug. Citadel investigators, allowed access to her personal quarters by Core Admiral Sanel Mabuza, were able to determine that she took steps to alter her appearance before departing with a flight bag full of negotiable bearer bonds and platinum. She is believed to be traveling with up to 5 trusted bodyguards. Investigators have released no details about the make or model of the ship she used, nor have they speculated on her likely location. Asked if she would likely remain in the Terminus systems to stay outside the Council's reach, spokesperson Dixali Arborandum replied,
If she wants to stay out of our reach, she'd better find another galaxy.
The saga of former Core employee Lyra Spite has apparently come to an end. A body with a gene print matching that of her Medicard to 99.998% accuracy was presented to a regional medical examiner on the Omega space station. Her bodyguards explained to officials that she was in a hotel and complained of headaches shortly before collapsing and could not be revived. The medical examiner, Urshok Aranhur, declared her death a result of a massive stroke and concluded there were no signs of foul play. Lonar Mehran, one of several Citadel Spectres assigned to bring in the fugitive admiral, says the evidence satisfies him.
She was under considerable stress,
He said.
I guess it got to her more than she let on.
Spite is survived by one brother. She was 47 Earth Standard years old. The galaxy's longest-running game of chess finally came to a close, as Douamon Thunlun of Dakuna checkmated Victor Kovesk of Luna. A board game of skill developed on 11th century Earth, chess became popular on the Elcor homeworld a few years after humanity was granted an embassy on the Citadel. Both players have competed professionally, but Thunlun and Kovesk's legendary 12-year game was a friendly match that its extranet followers are sad to see end. A flower of moves blooming over a decade, wrote one fan. I remember the first check better than I remember my kid being born, admitted another. They may not have to wait long for a rematch. Kovesk warmly congratulated Thunlun to his win, to which the Elcor replied,
Please acceptance. Thank you very much. Tentative excitement. New game.
The Earth city of New York is breaking with a centuries-long tradition this year to inaugurate a new one. The Times Square New Year's Eve Ball, a crystal globe festooned in lights that descends in the last moments of the old Earth Standard Year, will be moved to the Presidium on the Citadel, where it will descend at precisely 1 minute before midnight, Eastern Standard Earth Time. In the ball's place on Earth will be a volumetric display of the Citadel Ball, and giant monitors up and down Broadway will display the crowds on the Presidium. We feel this is our year, said New York Mayor Trudy Raspallo. Humans are on the galactic stage now in a big way, and we invite the galaxy to celebrate with us. The manhunt is on once again for Roland Quarn. The Turian conman and thief is believed to have stolen the Times Square New Year's Eve ball, sending event organizers on the Citadel and in New York into a panic. The Time Ball, which is 4 meters in diameter and weighs 5,185 kilograms in Earth gravity, disappeared sometime in the station's last night cycle, just 2 Saturdays before the New Year's Eve festivities. While it is possible Quarn did not steal the ball, a paper note claiming responsibility and signed with his handprint was left at the scene of the ball's disappearance.
At this point, we don't know if it's still on the station,
said a source in CSEC who asked not to be named.
Frankly, we don't even know how he got the thing into an elevator. It was fully assembled.
Citadel security continues the search for the stolen time ball, meant to mark the passing of the human New Year. Captain Armando Owen Bailey, whose men have searched countless docking bays for signs of the device, says there is evidence that the perpetrator used a mass reducer to get the ball off the Presidium. "We can't shut down all traffic without piling up 500,000 partygoers," says Bailey, "and we're certain that was part of the plan." Event coordinator Niala Alenas says the theft will not stop the festivities.
We've still got spotlights and fireworks, and lots of that fizzy girl drink,
she says.
Like the humans say, the show must go off.